Hey YouTube, welcome back to the channel. My name is Asia and I'm going to give you a whole current state of the garden video today. Yeah, I had to think of that. Okay, I did prepare like a little agenda with my new setup, as you can see. And so I'll just go over everything really briefly and then we can get into it. So I want to show you first my new space for new plants. As you probably have seen in my last video, I cleared a whole bed full of sweet potatoes and now that space is available for new planting. I'll show you how I'm mixing the soil and what I'm adding to that bed. And then I'll also share what I'm actually going to be growing. And then finally, I want to share a little bit about these cuttings that I started and some tips that I learned for success. So yeah, let's take a look at the state of the garden as it is currently. This bed has a few things in it. I'm going to be showing you some squash that's not really developing that well. It's kind of poor. So I have squash on both sides of this bed, and I have seen evidence of the vine borer. I think that's the name of the insect. And let me just show you that evidence. It's right here. And there's like a hole in that little piece of squash that's starting to develop. Yeah, so I guess something got in there, dug a hole, started eating the squash from within, and then days later it just kind of fell off. So that's been happening. That's been happening to these plants. I'm debating whether I should just take them out and replace them with new collard plants or just leave them there as is. So I don't know. I did treat the plants with an organic insecticide, so they're in better shape right now, but again, we'll see. Another reason for the insecticide was a few issues that I saw with my developing flowers on this tomato plant, or the lack of developing flowers, because something looks like something came and bit them off. We'll continue and continue, but as you can see, some pieces are missing and that's an issue. Well, as you could probably have guessed, I found the culprit. The culprit is this guy up here. Yeah, it's our friend, the tomato hornworm. I thought their season ended in the summer. They're still here, and I don't like the fact that they're overstaying their welcome. I did have to, unfortunately, get rid of it. I got a pair of pruners, and then I just reached for it, and I mean, you can see it. Yeah, so unfortunately, that's what's left. I mean, it's still intact and I just left it there. I actually threw it into the grass or something, but you can't be on my tomato plants, that's for sure. I sowed some onion seeds in this bed. This bed also has carrots and beans and a couple of tomato plants, but I smoothed out an area for onions only. So I'm growing Texas granite onions and red burgundy onions. The issue is only the reds propagated. Only the reds germinated. And the result of that is what you see in this video. So what you're seeing me hold are the little tiny seedlings, and then there's another area that has like nothing but seeds underneath. So there's nothing emerging, there's no germination. So anyway, yeah, I am experiencing some trouble with my Texas granite, and that's unfortunate because I grew those very well last year. I mean, they performed like I've never seen. But that's true because I've never grown onions before that. But I was very happy and I was very proud of it. And I don't know. I don't know what's happening this year. Maybe the seeds are too old. I did get them last year and I just saved them from the original packet that it came with. So maybe, seeds do expire. So maybe that's what happened. right here is where they're supposed to be, but there's nothing. Um, so yeah, I will just wait and see whether something happens, and if not, then I will plant more of the reds, maybe. All right, now let's talk about number 2. So I'm going to be mixing some soil for this new bed. And as you can see, I've labeled or I listed some of the items that I'm using for this soil mixture. So garden soil is being used. I had like leftover garden soil bags. I usually wouldn't, but I thought, hey, I might as well. I'm not going to really use this anywhere else. So I'm using garden soil. But my big three are coco coir, perlite, and compost. And if you saw one of my earlier videos about when I first established this garden, you'll see that I did that for most of the beds. I am now introducing garden lime to the soil mix now because I'm learning the benefits of garden lime. Those include adding calcium and other micronutrients to the soil that prevents things like blossom end rot in vegetables such as tomatoes, cucumbers, zucchini, which is especially important for me because that's one of the reasons why my zucchini don't ripen as well as they should. And bell peppers or peppers in general, those could also succumb to blossom end rot. So I'm adding lime to the soil. All right, so let me show you then all that work. This is the garden soil that I'm adding. I like garden soil because it does contain a lot of the rich nutrients that I'm gonna later on be kind of combining myself. But first, yes, I'm just laying down some garden soil, and here you can see me adding compost. Compost is gonna feed the soil really well and give it a warm, tight hug and make sure it has everything it needs to get these plants going. And here I am adding a ton of perlite, I think the whole bag. And the perlite is going to be used to provide the optimal drainage for the soil, and it also keeps things light and fluffy. I really love that for this bed, especially because this is where I grow my sweet potatoes and they need that room to expand. So I'm just going to break up this compost a bit, and let me show you what it looks like. It's kind of in clumps right now because it's just been sitting in a little area in the shade and it's just kind of clumped. But let me show you what it looks like if I could focus in. Yep, that's it. That's my black gold right there. So I'm just gonna break that up, sprinkle it all over, and then continue. I think in this clip, what am I showing in this clip? Let's fast forward. Okay, so that is all that garden lime, okay? Look at that. That's good stuff. I'm so surprised that I haven't done this before. Again, this is a new addition to my soil mix. All right, so continuing, I think I showed like the coco coir. Y'all, coco coir I've been using since I started my very first seeds. It's just such a nice medium. It's very fluffy, it's pretty light, and it holds moisture pretty well. So it's fit for many uses in the garden, right? And I buy these bricks. I buy like 7 or 8 at a time, and they're so compact that they basically you could fit like 12 of these in a bag, and you could just put it in your car and then just rehydrate them. And every brick will provide, I think, 8 quarts of coco coir. And so, yeah, it just takes some time to rehydrate. You can see me like breaking it up and all that. But essentially, that is way better than going to the hardware store and buying just bundles and bundles and loads of this cumbersome soil, like garden soil, that needs to then be taken out of your car into your yard, and it's just so laborious, and I just wanted to avoid that. So I do that by purchasing those bricks of cocoa coir and then just rehydrating them at home. So yeah, that's what I'm doing in this bed. All right, now in this video, I have everything all spread out. I'm mixing more cocoa coir, and then I'm really getting to like the real good ab workout, okay? And that's one of my favorite parts about the garden. I'm not a fan of working out, but if I have an opportunity to work out and it's beneficial to my body and it's giving me something in return, like not just fitness, but food, I'm all for it. So I'm just gonna rake everything in pretty well. It was such a nice day. I mean, it was overcast, not too hot, even though I'm kind of like wiping the sweat off of my brow. It wasn't that bad. But yeah, I mean, getting everything all smooth. I was engaging my shoulders, my core, my back. I'm really getting that workout, and I love it. I really love that part about gardening. Granted, it's not often. It's only when I have to do big projects like this, but it's still very enjoyable. All right, now let's just get to the planting, okay? So what do we got? I have a tomato plant, and this is a sucker that I pruned off of a more mature plant. Right. So I got a couple of those tomato plants. I have another one that I'm holding. I'm gonna do the same thing to it. I'm also going to take my celery and divide it, and then have, I think, 3 pieces, and I'm gonna just plant those also. So that's my celery. I also have some squash that I grew from seed, and that's going in, but I made a mistake because I actually needed to add garden lime right underneath that. And yes, I already did add lime to the soil, but one thing that was recommended from another video that I watched was to add a garden lime right underneath the roots when you plant them, so that those plants could have direct access to it. So I went away, then I came back with more garden lime to do just that. I also have some collards that are right here, but they are so leggy. I mean, most of these things are pretty leggy, but these were so leggy. But they're still going in. Not today, but they're gonna get a little stronger, and then I'm just gonna put them in at a later time. So yeah, this bed has tomatoes, celery, it will have collards, and it does have some squash. How are we doing on my agenda? Did I cover everything? Yeah. Let's now move on to number 4. This is the most unfamiliar territory out of all these agenda items for me, and I'll just get into it. So I'm pretty familiar with taking cuttings and then rooting them. I mean, I do have like this propagation wall with a bunch of pothos. Those things will propagate in water and grow roots almost overnight. It's really easy. So I've never successfully propagated from cuttings such as these. These are softwood and hardwood cuttings, and they include blueberry, juniper, gardenia, eugenia, and some tomato cuttings. Those tomatoes are already taking root, so they won't stay here long. I did learn a few tips on how to improve my results. You'll want to cut around 6 inches from the top of the plant and directly under a node. A node is the section of a stem between sets of leaves. Some plants, like the ones I gathered cuttings from, form new roots from the node. It's important for that area to be at the bottom of your cutting so it has access to your potting mixture. The next thing I'll want to do is remove most of the leaves, leaving only about 2 or 3 at the most. We want this plant to focus on root development and cutting the leaves and flowers will help it do that. Next, I'll dip the bottom of the cutting, or that exposed area, into some rooting powder. This powder contains a hormone that stimulates root production. You can also use honey as an alternative. Finally, your potting medium should be something that holds moisture but also drains well. My research advised to use something that is inert, meaning lifeless. You don't want to have anything that has nutrients or fertilizers, because that will tell the plant to develop areas other than the roots, and you should avoid that if you want a successful cutting. I'm using coco coir, but I also read that sand is a great alternative. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!